Hi guys and welcome back to the channel. This video is a bit of an experiment as I have been working on updating some of my older guides which became obsolete due to new bugs or changes meant on purpose by Paradox. And of course remaking the entire guide just for a few changes was not worth it, so I decided to cover several guides all together in this video. In particular today we are covering Habsburg Austria, Habsburg Hungary, Fascist UK and Napoleonic France. If that sounds interesting, then this is the right video for you. If you have any doubts, feel free to ask in the comments and make sure to join our Discord to meet our amazing community. And of course guys, if you enjoy the content I make, please do not forget to support the channel by liking the video, subscribing and leaving me a comment. Also let me know in the comments if you feel like some of my older guides would need updating, as if this video does well, this is something we can do again in future. But that's all for the introduction, so let's get started. By the way, if you purchase the tier 2 membership to the channel, you can already find all of the updated spreadsheets for all of these guides in this shared folder. Alright, so first of all we're taking a look at my Habsburg Austria guide, and for this guide one of the main changes is we're going to form an agency right at the beginning of the run. Here we just started the game, and in addition to the setup that you can already find in the guide, we are creating an agency. We're actually not upgrading the agency, although you can get the diplomatic training upgrade to get diplomatic pressure faster, and diplomatic pressure is all we're going to do. So we're going to use the spy on diplomatic pressure on Hungary and then later on Czechoslovakia and Poland to make them more likely to accept our annexation offer. That's not all though, because the diplomatic pressure doesn't directly make the annexation easier. What it does is, once you complete this focus, we would normally pick a non-aggression pact with Hungary, and then we would proceed to annex them. But if you use the spy on diplomatic pressure, so you would get a non-aggression pact which replaces this last option with military exercises, then you would do the military exercises instead of the non-aggression pact. And now it doesn't particularly matter whether they accept them or not. It's still one more chance for us to get positive modifiers. So in this case they refused, and you proceed with the annexation. As usual, you force deploy the mountaineers when you annex them. And while these might not be 100% consistent, I must say that in all of my test runs they always accepted. So there we go with Hungary. Hungary was usually the easy part, with Czechoslovakia being a bit more problematic. But later on, when it comes to Czechoslovakia, you do the same exact thing. Now here in this save, I already used the diplomatic pressure to get a non-aggression pact. Right after the non-aggression pact, you get the military exercises. Again, they refused, but it doesn't matter that much. And then you proceed to annex them, and you force deploy everything as you annex them. And once again, it might not be 100%, but I found this to be very consistent over my test runs. By the way, worth mentioning, I said it many times, but if you reload the game, you will always get the same outcome. So say that Czechoslovakia refused now, reloading the game doesn't fix it. You need to restart the run entirely. And ideally, you need to restart your game, because sometimes, somehow, I have no idea why, the seed of the run is the same even if you restart the run. Anyways, that should not be the case most of the time. Again, Czechoslovakia accepts, so we're cool. Later on, you do the same exact thing with Poland, so once again, you use the spy on diplomatic pressure to get a non-aggression pact. But with Poland, you go directly for the annexation, you don't do the military exercises, as they usually accept just with the annexation. Now at this point of the run, we have a much bigger army, so Poland is much more likely to accept. And there we go, so you take Poland as well. Now, let's go to the biggest change in this run, which concerns Yugoslavia and Romania. Now, what used to be the case is that Yugoslavia accept the first demand for annexation. That's what they just did here. But they always refused the second time, so what we are asking them right now. Now, Paradox made some changes. In particular, it seems that they changed the weight that your army or deployed manpower has on these decisions. So the main change is that if you follow my strategy and have the same army, now Yugoslavia always accepts the second time. And then later on, Romania will also always accept. So here we go, one day, and as you can see, Yugoslavia accepts a second time. Why is this a big deal? Well, this is a big deal because them refusing meant that we could declare war on them, take them militarily, and since they are guaranteed by Romania, we would also take Romania militarily. the good news is that at least Romania also always accepts. So one of the changes we're making to the original guide is we are picking this focus next. And as soon as that's done, we will be able to also annex Romania. We can go directly for the annexation request, as in my experience they always accept. But just in case, you can also improve relations, use the spy like we did before and get a non-aggression pact. And as you can see, Romania also accepts. So things are not looking too bad, because right now, in this way, peacefully, we can restore the Austro-Hungarian Empire. And that's a very early Austro-Hungarian Empire without the war, so we also saved on manpower and military equipment. However, this leads to 3 important issues. Now, the problem number 1 is that we are going to lack army experience, because at this point of the run we would be in a war with Yugoslavia and Romania, we would take them down, meaning we would have more army experience. This is particularly problematic because we need army experience to design and produce our new tanks, which will play a big role in the war against Germany. So in order to fix this problem, at this point of the original run, I would be picking these focuses here to increase stability and give us some political power while we are at war. Since we are not at war in this case, instead of picking these focuses, we are going to prioritize these ones. This one, and this one. In this way we get some army experience and we get the chief of army for more regular army experience. So nothing changes in the strategy, but you prioritize these focuses over these ones. So you just swap them around if you're following the guide. The second issue with this new version of the guide is that the war tension will be a bit lower, because we will not have annexed militarily Yugoslavia and Romania. Also, obviously, we will not take this land or puppet this land, so we are also a bit weaker. But the main issue with lower war tension is another. Later on in the run, we need to justify a claim and attack Italy, more or less at this point of the run if you're following the guide. If the war tension is lower, we will not be able to fabricate a claim on Italy until much later. In this case, I was able to get a claim on Italy in March 1940, and this is just about 10-15 days before Italy gets guaranteed by Japan. However, in this test run, Germany attacked Poland. That's not something they always do. When you play as Austria and you protect Sudetenland, sometimes Germany doesn't attack Poland at all. If they don't attack Poland, the war tension will be lower, we will not be able to justify on Italy until later, and Italy will be guaranteed by Japan by the time we attack them. It's not the biggest issue in the sense that Japan will not be directly involved in this war, and the US will take care of Japan eventually. But the annoying thing is that Japan loves to send their submarines to raid our coasts, especially later on in the run, making the invasion of the UK more annoying. It's quite fun that Japan will be a problem mainly for invading the UK. Still possible, but annoying. Speaking of the UK, of course, you do need the Italian fleet to be able to invade the UK, so taking down Italy is not optional. And let's move to the issue number 3 with this new strategy. And the issue is that at some point, since we did not take Romania entirely, Romania will actually join the Axis. As you can see, this happened in my case while I was conquering Italy, and this meant that I had to send 1 or 2 extra armies to cover the front with Romania. Now, Romania goes down fairly easily, and it's a smaller Romania since we took part of their land, but still, this is a bit annoying and it will slow you down. Now, all of these elements combined will mean that you get to the point where you can attack the Allies. This is just before the war on the Allies, a bit later than normal. Especially you will have taken Italy a bit later than normal, meaning most likely you will not have enough time to fully annex Italy before declaring war on the Allies. It's still okay in the sense that the German fleet and what we could take from Italy in the peace conference is enough, but you will need to use my new strategy to invade the UK. And the strategy involves splitting off all of your submarines in a separate fleet and setting them on convoy raiding around the UK in this way, while the rest of the fleet will be on naval invasion support in the English Channel. This setup usually guarantees that you can get Green Sea in the Channel, because the Royal Navy will be busy fighting the submarines. To make it even more consistent, you can also select all of your planes and send them all to the Channel. Now, of course, all of these should happen after you capitulate France. So you push the Netherlands, Belgium, France, but that's part of the normal guide, and then you invade the UK with this new strategy, even without the rest of the Italian fleet. All in all, the run is still viable and the guide can be followed, but it certainly became a bit harder and with some risky timing. That being said, I have the perfect solution for you guys, and it will be coming next week with the fascist version of this guide. It will be a full country guide, it will change quite a bit from this original strategy, it will be a lot more consistent, and it will solve all of these issues. As always, fascism solves all problems. Kidding. Either way, make sure not to miss it next week. Alright, next, let's move on to Hungary. A few minor changes here, nothing massive, and very similar to what we did for Austria. So this is my Habsburg Hungary guide. At the very beginning of the guide, again, we're going to form an agency, and we're going to use the spy on diplomatic pressure to get a non-aggression pact with Austria first, which will make them more likely to accept our annexation demands. Now, to be completely fair, Austria almost always accepts, and the problem used to be Czechoslovakia. So for Czechoslovakia, we're going to use a couple of tricks. One of them is, of course, the spy on diplomatic pressure in order to get a non-aggression pact with them. Then, of course, you want to improve relations, but you also want to wait until the 15th of June before you pick this focus. So when you complete the previous focus, just stop, pick nothing at all until the 15th of June, and exactly on the 15th of June, pick Protect Czechoslovakia. At the same time, you improve relations and you put the spy on diplomatic pressure. Now, the reason we do all of this is that in just a few days, Japan will declare war on China. There we go. And as soon as Japan declares war on China, the war tension increases to the point that we can start a justification on the United States. As you can see, this will massively increase the war tension. So we're going to start a justification on the United States with the only purpose of increasing war tension above 20% first and 25% by the end of the focus. That's our goal. Meanwhile, thanks to diplomatic pressure, we are able to get a non-aggression pact with Czechoslovakia, which is also one of the important modifiers to make them more likely to accept. Just before the end of the focus, we are going to force deploy all of our divisions. And if you did everything correctly, when the focus ends, the war tension should be above 25%. You should have a lot of cavalry deployed, good relations, and a non-aggression pact. All of these elements combined make it so that they always accept. Again, there might be a little bit of RNG, but in my test runs, they always very consistently accepted. One important thing though, don't forget to cancel your claim on the United States before you get over 10% war tension. We want to stay below that margin, or the UK will start guaranteeing and mess up our run. Now, later on, you can use the same trick, diplomatic pressure and non-aggression pacts with Poland and Romania, but this does not guarantee that they will accept our demands, and especially Romania tends to refuse them most of the time. It doesn't matter much because in the Hungarian version of the guide, we get claims on Yugoslavia, so we will take Yugoslavia and Romania militarily as shown in the original guide. Now, one last thing you can do with the spy if you wanted to is you could put the spy on diplomatic pressure in Germany and you could use that to get a non-aggression pact with them. This does not make it so that they don't attack you, but they will attack you a bit later. So this can be a viable strategy, but in my opinion it is not necessarily a good one because we're actually quite happy to have the Germans crush into our high-tier forts as early as possible. Okay, the next one is an easy one, and this is about the Fascist UK run. This is for my no civil war strategy, which involves requesting all puppet divisions and placing them correctly in all provinces in your puppets in order not to lose them when you turn fascist, specifically after taking this focus. Now, the main change here is that with the Graveyard of Empires, India was changed. They added a lot more provinces and they changed their units. So the army positioning to avoid losing them after turning fascist is a bit different. However, it would not make much sense to show you here directly as it takes forever. In the description of the original video you can find a new positioning for divisions, as well as in the updated spreadsheet if you have a tier 2 membership to the channel. The interesting thing is that now India has a lot more provinces, but they actually require less divisions than before to be kept after turning fascist. Now, speaking of Fascist UK, you may already know I'm working on a new version of this guide, a much better one, and as you can see, one in which you can form the empire and core all of the United States, as well as Canada, South Africa, Australia, New Zealand, in 1937, as you can see here. And well, I would say that this is by far the most overpowered thing you can do in the game. Nothing comes even close to this. I mean, 443 factories in 1937 is just crazy. So well, make sure not to miss this upcoming guide. Alright, next let's talk about Napoleonic France. I actually covered this recently in a live streaming. Make sure to check it out, as in it we were able to successfully form the European Union. So everything in here, as you can see, is our core. And turn non-aligned, get Napoleon in charge of the French Empire, and capitulate the United Kingdom before the US could join. So a very successful run in our live. Also, compared to the original guide, we are using much better divisions, as we were using infantry with line artillery, and we switched to this much more optimized mountaineers plus tanks. Absolutely unstoppable, but you must have seen them in some of my other guides and runs. These things are insane. The problem though is another. Regardless of the divisions you use, it's perfectly fine with the infantry and line artillery too. The issue is that Paradox completely broke the German AI. So now when we go for Napoleonic France, Germany starts acting very weird. The interesting thing is that when Germany starts acting weird, we are still a democracy, so it's not changing to non-aligned that breaks the German AI. In fact, after some further testing, it turns out that what completely breaks the German AI is this focus here. If you pick utilize the leagues, Germany goes completely crazy. As an example, here it is February 1939, and if we tag Germany, you can see that their focus choices were a bit strange, in the sense that they did not do Danzig or war, instead they went for Danzig for Slovakia. So they gave up Slovakia and they took Danzig peacefully. Other than this, the broken German AI tends to ignore the Benelux, although that's not the case in this particular run, completely ignores Denmark and Norway, and they just love to attack the Baltics. They usually pick this focus here and then they declare war on Lithuania, Latvia and Estonia. They also tend to help Finland against the Soviet Union, being involved in a very early Barbarossa. Overall, their behavior is completely suicidal, and it often leads to them destroying themselves very quickly. In the live stream, which I really recommend watching, they actually picked this focus here, and they attacked Italy, which is something I had never seen in any of my runs, even when playing with non-historical focuses. So the funny thing is seeing Germany doing this stuff when playing on historical focuses. This is clearly a bug, as it breaks the eye only of Germany. It's not like when you change ideology with a major and other majors adapt to the change to rebalance the game. In this case, everyone acts historically except for Germany, which is completely broken. So hopefully Paradox will eventually fix this. In all of this, the biggest issue for us is what happens with the Benelux, as we need all of these countries in order to form the European Union, and we also need to remain democratic. As a democracy, of course, we cannot justify on them. So the only option we have is that Germany takes them first, and then we take them from Germany. This used to be consistent, as it should, on historical focuses, but unfortunately now Germany sometimes picks influence the Benelux instead of around Maginot, and never declares war on them. If you're not playing on Iron Man, I noticed that reloading a previous save does seem to change what Germany does, so you might have the option of re-rolling the save until you get the outcome that you want. But if you're playing on Iron Man, well, you might have to hope in good RNG or just restart the run, which honestly is quite annoying since it's 1939. It's a big chunk of the run that you need to redo. There is no perfect fix for this, but there are a couple of things that we can do to ensure that at least we join the war against Germany, because that's another issue. If Germany doesn't attack Poland, doesn't attack these countries, and doesn't attack us, how do we join the war against them? Well, one option is to guarantee both Poland and Lithuania, so you guarantee the independence of both. As in all runs, Germany seems to attack at least one of the two countries. So in this case, they probably will not attack Poland, since they did Danzig for Slovakia, but they will likely attack Lithuania, Latvia and Estonia. So if you guarantee Lithuania, you can join the war against Germany when they attack them. Now, another interesting alternative to this would be to deny them Sudetenland. At some point of the run, the Germans will attack Czechoslovakia or demand Sudetenland, and you can decide to help Czechoslovakia. This will be quite expensive in terms of political power, but it will do two very important things. The most important thing is that this will enable you to create a faction. In fact, it will automatically create a faction, and it will pull Czechoslovakia into this faction. Now, this might be a bug, but it seems to be that even if you do not join the war to help Czechoslovakia and they capitulate, you're still able to join their wars afterwards. So at this point, at any time, we can join Czechoslovakia against Germany. We have our way to join the war against them. But there is something even more important here. If you create an agency and get a spy on diplomatic pressure in Luxembourg, you can get to the point where you can invite them to your faction. Now, it's very close, and it also depends on the war tension, as you cannot invite them until the war tension is at 80%. Of course, you will also need max relations and max diplomatic pressure. Since the Netherlands always joins the Allies, and in this way we can get Luxembourg and later on Belgium to join us, although for Belgium we need 100% war tension. In theory, in this way, we can make sure that Germany takes Belgium, Luxembourg and the Netherlands, and eventually we should be able to take them back from Germany. Unfortunately, there is still a bit of RNG, as we are tied, as you can see, to war tension. So in this case, Germany is attacking the Baltics, they may fight the Soviet Union. You may be able to get to 80% war tension, but you're not always able to get to 100% war tension, so you may not be able to invite Belgium. All in all, it's a bit sad for this run. This was a great run as Napoleonic France, and it's currently bugged by the German behavior. So for now, it's possible to follow it and check the live if you're interested. But until Paradox fixes it, there is quite a bit of RNG involved. You might also explore an option in which you don't pick utilize the leagues until World War II, but that's very problematic because you need to keep the disjointed government for the entire run. And you also need to wait for 365 days after this focus before you can pick this one, meaning you will turn non-aligned much later. You will probably not be able to take down the UK before the US joins. It's a big mess. At that point, probably I would rather restart the run until Germany behaves properly, and I don't see many other options. Alright guys, and that's all for our first ever guides update video. I hope you found it interesting, as if you did and the video does well, again, we might do this again in future for other guides. So please make sure to let me know in the comments, and also let me know if the changes we used are working for you and if they were easy to follow. Other than that guys, as always, please do not forget to support the channel by liking the video, subscribing and leaving me a comment. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you guys very soon in the next video. Bye bye!